Hi. So here's a quick story that taught me a lot about how musical development works, and I think that you will find it very encouraging. I was a public school teacher, and I had a student in my classroom. It was a period when I was supposed to be getting my paperwork done, and he was in study hall. He was just supposed to be studying, but he would not stop talking. And he loved music, and he knew I was a musician, so we had all kinds of things to talk about. And so in the end, we settled on this arrangement. He would bring his guitar, and he was allowed to practice his guitar while I did my paperwork. And sometimes I would work with him a little bit on the guitar. But I wasn't actually, teaching him formal lessons. And so when we first started, back then I used to often start people with D chord. Some people I still might start with D chord, but he really, really wanted to learn Sweet Home Alabama, which, if you don't know that song, sounds kind of like this. And I wasn't doing the, that I knew that was too hard for a beginner, but I thought he might be able to do and his rhythm was good, but his fingers would not make the chord changes. And so eventually, he would just play around. He spent a lot of time just playing around. I tried to teach him organized exercise like this, or just little scales. No, what he was not going to do anything organized, but he just loved to play on his guitar. And fortunately, it was an electric guitar, and it wasn't plugged in. But he would just, I mean, I'm just like all over the place. And he was having a blast, and he was leaving me alone, and I could get my paperwork done. So I was happy, and he was happy, and I felt kind of guilty because I was letting him get away with playing all that mess. And then a couple months later, I was working with him again, and we just somehow got back around to trying Sweet Home Alabama. And I showed him, the D chord, and he made the D chord, no problem. I showed him this C chord, his fingers plopped down on the C chord shape, no problem. And right on to G, no problem. And his rhythm was always quite good, so then he could go. And that was our second lesson on Sweet Home Alabama. The only difference was 2 months of him putting his fingers down randomly and making sound. So that taught me a lot about how it works. There's just so much happening. You just put your fingers down and squeeze and make sound, and you actually are developing. Your brain is learning those sounds, those places, those movements. And especially when you have a chord that maybe you don't like the way it sounds, there's a feedback loop, and your brain is actually doing things for you that you're unconscious of, and those chords will get better. My favorite chord to say this about is F chord. F chord was my hardest beginner chord, and finally what happened is I just kept playing, and it kept sounding bad, and I just kept playing it anyway, and then eventually it started sounding good, and I didn't know why. And those things will happen to you. So the most important thing about making your chords sound better, or making any of your musical expression sound better, is just to keep doing it, especially if you can manage to do it on a daily basis. Even if it's just for 5 minutes, it will make a difference. And so anyway, that's all I have to say right now about that story. I just wanted you to know just how powerful it is just to put your fingers down, squeeze, and make sound. And when it's organized, well, that's probably even better. So have fun with that, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.